I've built quite a bit of stuff in Minecraft, which should be pretty apparent from my testing world. As you can see, I've got a lot of micro builds here. I've got test things that I've built. I've got a giant flower on top of a living grass block. Just don't ask. You can always go back and check that out in another video. But yeah, that was interesting. Really had a good time building all this stuff in my testing world and elsewhere. Of all the different types of Minecraft player I am definitely a builder. I'm okay at redstone. I'm okay at PvP. I'm okay at grinding stuff, but I love building things in Minecraft, and I have gotten quite a bit better over the course of the last 4 years of playing this game. But the question I often get asked is, how do you get better at building? How do you go from that level that you start out at to move on and sort of evolve your building style? And I'm hoping that today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that while we go over just some basic tips and tricks for building in Minecraft. And we're going to do it sort of in an evolutionary style. We're going to go from probably the first build that you or I or anyone else that ever picked up Minecraft ever had, and we're going to show you how to improve based on that. So it's not going to be you're going to become an amazing builder overnight kind of thing, but evolve and get better as you go. So let's get into it. So when you first started playing Minecraft, I'm willing to bet that your first house looked a little bit like this. It's made of dirt. It's a dirt house. I think that pretty much everyone's first house kind of looked like this. You picked up some dirt and decided you needed to build a shelter because it was getting dark and it was scary outside. And what's the most readily available commodity in Minecraft? It is this stuff. It's dirt. So building a house out of dirt, while not the prettiest thing, is at least functional. It gives you everything that you need. As you go inside here, we see we've got a bed, we've got a crafting table, we've got dirt on top of our furnace. We've got a furnace, we've got a chest with some stuff in it. I mean, this is, and of course, we put up a painting because we wanted to be a little bit homely, I guess. And then some light inside so that you're safe at night from all of the terrible, scary things that are out there in Minecraft. This is more than likely the first thing that you ever built in this particular game. And it's not the best, is it? I mean, this is the first house I had. As I said, this was probably the first house that most other people had. Maybe you prettied it up a little bit by putting some torches outside or something. But honestly, this is probably the first house that you ever had in this particular game. So what was the next step from there? How do you move on from this? Now, obviously, the more you got comfortable and familiar with the game, the more that you determined that you could do something better than this. So you moved on to something that looked probably a little bit more like this. So after you discovered wood, everything became wood. I mean, it did for me. I'm probably willing to bet it did for you as well. Everything was like, I can do wood for everything. I can do wood for houses. I can do wood for farms. I can do wood for everything that I want to build. So your second house probably looked a lot, if I can get off under the eaves of this other place, like this. So, and you probably also discovered things like, stairs. Stairs can be used for more than just stairs. You can use them as roofing, which is really neat. So you build something that probably looked a lot like this. Now, you can see the departure from the dirt house to something like this. This is much prettier, and it's much more pleasing to the eye. Now, where are the problems with this? So let's go inside and check it out. Whoa, if I can actually get in the house. So get on the inside. On the inside, pretty much kind of the same layout. I mean, you've got the chest, the furnace, the crafting table, the bed, the painting on the wall. I think it's a different painting. The torch for light. It's pretty much the same layout, but you've just sort of advanced onto a new block palette in that you're using wood. And then you probably also discovered the ability to make windows out of glass. So you just throw some sand in a furnace, voila, you get glass, and now you have some windows so you can see outside and see your neighbor in his dirt house over there and laugh at him, and your sheep off in the corner here. So you discovered a number of different things at this point, and you evolve your building style into this. Now let's talk about the issues with this. A lot of people, I go on servers all the time, and I see a lot of people build in this kind of style. And you know what? It's Minecraft. You do what you want, build how you want. No one can tell you what you can or cannot do, right? That's what Minecraft is. But we can do better than this. It is possible to do better than this, to give you something that you're actually very proud to come back to, rather than just being like, oh, I'm going to go back to my woodblock house. Because the problems with this is it's all one block. It's one texture. It's oak wood. And that's all it is. It's just very oaky. The door is oak, the stair is oak, the foundation is oak, the sides are oak, the ceiling is oak. It's oak, 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 oak. Oak everywhere you look. And while there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, I mean, especially if it's like your first night, your first house, and you're just trying to get away from the mobs, you can improve on this even more and become an even better builder and enjoy what you're doing even more. Because these houses are easy to build, but how much enjoyment did you get out of building this? I mean, it was probably your second house, and you were probably struggling to try and figure out exactly what to do and how to build it, and it probably took you 2 or 3 times to get it put together, and then you got done with it, and you're like, it's okay. I mean, it serves its purpose, but it's just kind of meh. It's kind of bland, right? Well, next step in your evolution was probably something that looked a lot more like this. Now, this is after you went and visited a village and saw how the villages are built, and you saw that they used wood for the supports over here, that they used cobblestone for a foundation, that they used glass panes rather than glass, because glass panes actually give it a little bit more depth to the build. And you just saw sort of the changes being made there. Now, this is where you start introducing ideas and concepts like depth and texture. So, depth, obviously, how deep something is. If you have, so let's say you just had this same old-fashioned glass blocks over here that you had with the rest of the build. Notice these come out to the exact same bit as the rest of the house. So there's no depth, there's no texture. And if you think about houses in real life, there's depth and texture to every single house that you've ever lived in or ever seen. So, oh no. Excuse me one second. I'm trying to do a video here and you need to just go. As I was saying, depth and texture. So we have depth with the windows here. We have the textures. So we have the logs making up the supports on the side with some cobblestone on the bottom with a foundation. So we have some different textures in here as well. But then we look at the roof and notice that the roof, rather than being the same block, we've chosen a different wood type, in this case birch, and sort of an accent on the outside to give you an idea of like the runners or the railing on the edge of your roof, right? So you have like your gutters and things like that. So we've sort of given it a little bit more detail by doing that, and we brought it out one block. So rather than having it be flush with the rest of the build like this, we bring it out one, and that gives it even more depth to it, and it makes it a little bit more interesting. Now, the inside is still effectively the same. We were using cobblestone for the floor, but we've chosen something different for the roof. We've chosen a different wood type for the roof. So we're using 3 different wood types now. We're using oak, birch, and jungle wood, just to give the place a little bit more flavor, a little bit more detail, a little bit more texture, and make it a little bit more interesting, the whole way we're going on there. We still have our painting, of course. We still have all the standard Minecrafty stuff. We have the furnace, we have the crafting table, the storage, and everything else. And, of course, the lighting. So we still have all the same type of stuff here in this particular house. We've just made it more interesting by looking at the outside and making it so that it's a little bit more textured and more defined than our other first 2 houses that we built here. Now, how do we evolve from this? Well, if you look at the roof is kind of, it's a little janky, isn't it? I mean, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it being like this, but it just doesn't seem like it really connects with the rest of the house as far as how it's built. And then you've got this big blank space up front here, like the 5 head of the house, where there's really nothing going on, and it's kind of blank and a little bit bland. And if you go around to the back, you see the same problem here, although less defined, because you do have some texture and some depth in the back with the windows here. But you could definitely put something in here as well, and you could definitely fix this up. So how do you fix up this problem with the roof itself? Well, and that's with another evolution in your building style to go to something like this. Now, hold on, don't panic. This is not a huge step between these two. Notice that the same footprint is being used for all of these houses. They're all effectively 3x3 houses on the inside, and they are 5x5 altogether. That includes this one. This one is still 5x5 and 3x3 on the inside. So if you go to the inside, you can see what I mean here, as we still have the exact same amount of indoor space. We've just used it a little bit differently than we have in other places. So let's start with the outside, and then we'll move inside. So the first thing is you'll notice the roof. So the roof is still using this sort of like a runner idea here. like you do on this one, but we've added in some upside down stairs here to make it a little bit more of a gradient. So it's more gentle across the way rather than just this very angular look to this particular roof here. Well, we've also added in a trapdoor up here for just a little bit of decoration in the middle of this so that it's no longer all that blank. And we've added in a porch. So porch roofs are actually a lot easier than you'd think. It's really just some fence and some trapdoors, and there you go, instant porch. And you can even put like a lantern on it or something like that. Other things you can do is you can add in things like planter boxes. So it's just simply a grass block with some trapdoors and then a flower in it to give you a little bit more texture and detail in the build. Rather than having just a single stair here, you can put in 3 stairs, and if you put this one in at an angle, it'll connect this way to make it look like a sort of a step up here. The other thing that you can do is rather than having your supports flush with the rest of the house, is you can actually have them 1 block out from the house so that it looks, once again, giving you more depth and more detail to your particular build. Other things that we've done here is rather than just a flat wall, notice I put in some stairs here and there just to give it a little bit more texture there. I've used white stained glass panes rather than just regular old glass panes. Is a little bit sort of like making it look like frosted glass or something like that, just to make it a little bit more interesting. We've also added trapdoors out here to simulate shutters, and we've done that on all the various different windows in the place. We've added trapdoors around the foundational pillars of our house here, just to make it look like it's more substantial. And then around on the inside, once again, we still have our painting. Of course, it's a different painting. We have all of our Minecrafty stuff, our bed, our crafting table, our storage. Is there anything storage? Oh, there is stuff in storage. Our storage and our furnace. We've added in a chimney. So this is just basically 2 bits of brick wall that then go up. Now, they look like they go all the way out, but they really don't. They stop at the roof. So if you go down in here, you'll see that the illusion has been destroyed, you know? that's how this looks. So we have our birch roof, just like we did before. We've used andesite stairs, or excuse me, brick stairs over here for our outside detailing rather than cobblestone, just because the brick stairs are a little bit more cleaner texture. And then 2 more bits of wall and 2 bits of just stone brick block down here. And then I've used cobwebs to make it look like it's actually smoking. Now you can, by all means, put a campfire some down here to have actual smoke coming up so that it looks like a real campfire. But I chose to use this method because this method's really fun. I really like this. So it's just cobwebs coming out like this. You don't have to have this. It's a nice to have. But that's only half the story here, as you may be able to tell, because the house itself is only half the build. So look over here at these other 2 houses that we looked at. So our dirt house, obviously, there's nothing going on outside. The wood house, a little bit more. You've got a stair going here. You've got something on the outside. Your intermediate house, you've got stairs here, but then you've got a little pathway coming down. The building itself is only half the build. It's how you decorate it outside that's going to make it pop or going to make it special. So in this particular case, I've got a whole bunch of spruce fence, and some lanterns. So I decided what I would do is I would basically make a fence around the whole property, and then do a 2-high fence at the edges, and then every 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks I went with another one and put a lantern on top of it. So not only does it look good, lanterns are just an amazing block for building. Not only does it look good, but it also lights up the area to keep it from safe from spawns, so you don't have to worry about going in your house and having a witch around the corner coming to come get you. Around the front, I did something a little bit different, is I put in fence gates, because the fencing's great and it looks fine, but the fence gates, I think, are a little bit better for an entrance to a house, especially if you have them connected all the way across, as it looks more natural. So, and then once you go in, you notice we've got our path, rather than just being 1 little block, we've got a path of 3, and we've switched it up a little bit. So we have path blocks here, which is just simply taking your shovel and right-clicking on ground. But we've also got some mossy stone cobblestone, a piece of andesite, and a piece of cobblestone, as well as another piece of andesite here that we sort of splotched in, just to give it an idea that it's maybe a cobbled path, or maybe it was a cobbled path, or how you walk up to your house and you've got like a dirt path, but rocks have gotten on it, just to give it sort of that kind of feeling to it. is that it's maybe a little bit overgrown. And then don't underestimate the spamming of the plants. Like, I've got a bunch of too tall flowers out here that look really good on their own. But on the back, I've also just thrown some bone meal around. We've gotten some grass to grow. We've got some flowers. Just things like that. Just bone meal the ground, and it'll give you a little bit more texture and a little bit more detail for that. And then these bushes. And they're not bushes. They're actually leaf blocks. So these are dark oak leaf blocks. Let's see, I think we have a couple of different types in here, don't we? Or do we just have dark oak? I think we might just have dark oak. Yeah. These are just dark oak leaf blocks that I've sort of spammed around the sides here to give it that feeling of, you get like hedges or bushes around the build. And then, of course, we put in some crops back here. So we've got, wheat and carrots, some beetroot. Gives it a little bit of color, gives it a little bit more character. And then an entrance, which is one of my favorite entrances to do for little builds like this, is fences all the way across and down with a couple of lanterns or light source of your choosing, but then take signs, and you can put signs all the way around to give you this sort of arched entrance here, which is really cool. And the fun thing is that if you look at the amount of materials in this build versus the other two, obviously this one is the least amount of materials. It's dirt and some wood, and that's pretty much it. This one's very wood heavy, of course. This one's using wood, cobblestone, and birch. So oak, cobblestone, and birch. So there's basically three different variants of block used in this. This one, honestly, is only using, so these stone bricks can be made using cobblestone, throw it in a furnace to make stone, and then turn them into bricks. So basically cobblestone, and we're using cobblestone down there. So that's one type. Birch, oak, and spruce. So there's three types of wood. Now we have used dark oak trapdoors. You could use standard spruce trapdoors. That's fine. You don't have to necessarily go about that way. And then on the inside, we've used stone brick, andesite, a little bit of mossy cobblestone. You don't have to necessarily have that. You may not have that right off the bat. But really, we're only using three wood types primarily: birch, spruce, and oak. And a few different stone types. And this brick, you can get clay out of any river or ocean that you're next to. So it's really not that hard to get clay either. So really, going from something like this to going to something like this isn't a big evolution, and it doesn't take a whole lot more materials than you would need for that house. It just takes, materials used in a slightly different way. And you get a very interesting, very character-filled build that has a lot of depth, has a lot of detail, has a lot of texture to it. It looks interesting and it looks fun. And it's something that you'd probably be much happier coming home to at night after your day of Minecraft adventures than you would say this, or even this. This is something that's just, it's fun, and it's fun to build and things like this. It's fun to come up with builds along these lines. Now, I intentionally, as I said, kept these all being 3x3 interiors and 5x5 builds because I wanted to show you that it's not just like huge, immense houses. Like, this one over here that I was sort of working on just to play around with some different ideas. It doesn't have to be a giant house to look really good. You can make a smaller house. You can make a 5x5 house or in a 3x3 interior house and have it be amazing looking. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a mega build to be a great place to just hang out and call home. It can be a little house like this. It can be a medium-sized house. It can be pretty much anything. You just have to start thinking about things in slightly different ways when you're going through and building. Like, what would it look like if this particular support here was one block out rather than flush with everything else? Would that give it more depth? Would it give it more detail? Would it make it more interesting? And the answer to that question is, I think, yes, absolutely it would. For my porch, my front porch here, could I make it so that it's a little bit bigger and has a little bit more detail and decoration to it? And yes, you absolutely could. And you still stay within, effectively, that same exact footprint size as your original dirt house, just using a little bit more materials and a little bit more time and just playing around with ideas. The thing is that a lot of people ask me, they say, well, how'd you learn how to do things like this? As we see my giant, the skeleton of the Chrysler building behind me and the giant Tory arch. How did you learn how to do things like this? It's like, well, I learned how to do things like this like a lot of people, or a lot of other people learn how to do things like this. I just kept throwing blocks at the problem until I came up with this. It wasn't so much that I became good overnight just by watching YouTube tutorials and all that. All those do help. But I basically just threw blocks at problems until I found something that I really liked. And things like this, I really like. Things like this, I really like. Like I said, I haven't played around with this for a while because this is just sort of a test of some different ideas, but I really like that. The giant egg in the background there, I like that. The Temple to Bacchus was basically me just experimenting, trying to figure out exactly what I was going to be doing for this. Even this pink nightmare over here, which I still don't particularly care for, but it doesn't look terrible because I just kept throwing blocks at it until I got to something that I really enjoyed and really liked having around. I mean, even some of these smaller builds that I've got in my world here, like the dirt block house with the oxeye daisy on top of it. I mean, I still like this. I still want to build this somewhere just so I can say that I live in a grass block, you know? I really do. This house, maybe some of you actually recognize this house. This was a house that was featured on a show that I can't remember the name of to save my life, that I just happened across on YouTube, where this guy was building this house out in the middle of the Canadian wilderness out of reclaimed wood and just random different parts. And he came up with this. And I was like, well, that's really cool. I want to build that in Minecraft. So I did. So I built it in Minecraft. Now, this is slightly more expensive than some other houses because it's using, prismarine and dark prismarine for the roof. So not exactly a starter build here. But, I mean, I intentionally wanted to make it as small as he made his. So I think we've got storage in the roof with like barrels, and we've got the crafting table on the floor, and it's fun. It's fun to challenge yourself with things like that, to try and make yourself a better builder and a better player. And I've been actually meaning to do this video for a while because I built these houses probably a year ago, and I've been sort of half working on it off and on ever since. But I decided that after I've gotten a number of people who've mentioned, it's like, wow, I wish I could build like you do, or wow, you're an amazing builder, or you're really good at this. I'm like, guys, I'm really not all that good at this. I just try a lot of different things all the time, and sometimes those things work really well. Sometimes those things don't work, really well, which is like some of the stuff I've got in my testing world here, like this wall design and guard tower design that I had for the Urban Renewal series. I never really liked it, and sometimes things just don't work out all that well. The shop front ideas that I had, like all these, I thought were just awful, and these just look kind of bland. I mean, and it just, this horrific mess over here. I mean, sometimes things just don't work out. So I guess the moral of the story and the whole point of this video is, if you're in one of these two stages, or even if you're in the first stage over there with the dirt house, and you see people on the server or your friends building stuff that you just think is absolutely amazing, don't get discouraged and think that you can't build, because you totally can. You can totally get to this point. It's really not as difficult as you think it is. It's just a matter of experimenting and trying different things and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes you're going to build things that are just going to look awful. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay to build things that look awful, because that means that you're trying new stuff. And that's the biggest takeaway you should get from this, is that you should never be afraid to try something brand new and weird and strange, because if you do, you might find something that actually is really cool, like, living in a grass block house. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this little look inside my brain as far as how my building style works and how my brain works as far as building things. And I hope you enjoyed it. And if nothing else, I hope that this made you think a little bit more about your own builds and how you could do things differently to give yourself more enjoyment with the game. Because I think that building things like this makes the game 10,000 times more enjoyable than building in maybe a simpler style, because it's a challenge, and it makes you feel good when you get it done, you get it right, and you get just that perfect placement of everything, and you look at it and go, that's a really good house, or that's a really cool looking farm. It's almost like a drug. It really is. It's just, you want to do it over and over and over again. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you had a good time. Please make sure to hit the like button on the way out the door and subscribe if you did enjoy the content. But if you don't feel like subscribing, don't worry about it. I do this for fun. I do this for enjoyment. I do this as a hobby. I just hope you all had a good time while you're here. But whatever you do tonight, make sure you go out tonight, play some games, have some fun. I'll see y'all again real soon. Have a good night, everyone.